If an indie brand can do it right, every brand can do it right. Hello. Oh my God, I'm so excited for this video. Those of you who can see me can see that I have a big smile on my face because, wow, this video has been in the works for a very long time. Back in December, I filmed this video right here, or maybe it was even November. Anyways, it went out in January. It was with Allure magazine where I talked about, from my personal perspective, universal design, accessible design in the beauty industry. I reviewed companies and kind of talked about things that they could improve on, things that would be helpful, again, just from my perspective as one blind woman who loves makeup. People loved that video. I'll link it below, check it out if you haven't yet. People have been loving it, so many companies have been reaching out, and it got me thinking, maybe I should review products that are designed for the blind. So I started doing some research and found a couple of articles that have come out over the last few years that highlighted brands that are actually proactively making an effort to design packaging that they claim is accessible for the blind. So today, I ordered products from almost every single brand mentioned in those articles. I will link the articles that I used for my research down below. So I've been working on this for months between doing the research, ordering all the products, getting all the products in, and I'm gonna go over from my individual perspective as one human who's living with blindness, what I think they've done well, how I think they could improve. And I first off want to just say thank you to every single brand featured in today's video. Thank you for making an effort. Thank you for actually caring about our community, seeing us, hearing us, understanding us, and recognizing that we are a valid consumer base that a lot of other companies are missing out on. As I often say about things like sustainability, any step in the right direction is a step to be celebrated. No, not all of these companies have nailed it, but they're putting in the effort, and that is more than can be said for the majority of beauty brands. So thank you. I will be critiquing these things only because if they're already spending the money and effort to make their packaging accessible, I would like to share my perspective on how they could improve for the future. So, with all of that said, thank you to those brands, amazing effort. Thank you for putting that in, and I will be providing constructive criticism in the hopes that it will help these brands improve and maybe inspire some other brands who might be thinking about designing accessible packaging on how they might want to think about doing it. I also just want to say a massive thank you to Android for sponsoring this video. In celebration of Global Awareness Accessibility Day, I am partnering with Android to talk about this amazing app called Lookout, which, side note, to the marketing team who came up with that name, I love it. I think it's very funny and very cute, so well done. I'm gonna insert some clips of me actually using Lookout so you can see how it's done. I'm obsessed.
I'm obsessed.
My mom is obsessed. She was so excited when I started using it. She's like, this is what we've been needing. It's honestly amazing because the reality is a lot of the apps that I've used in the past as an alternative to this connect me with a real life human, which frankly, sometimes I just don't want to talk to a real life human. Whereas this is just using my phone and the technology that's already existing within it. So I can do things like read food labels, read restaurant menus, read product packaging that isn't accessible. Also, another side note, I would just like to say that just because apps like Lookout exist doesn't excuse companies from creating accessible packaging. It's awesome that I have the Lookout app to be able to read packages and products that aren't accessible, but it doesn't excuse people from still working towards universal design and global accessibility in physical design, not just technological design. So wanted to make that clear. When I get mail in, like physical print mail, it reads the mail to me. It's awesome.
And
it reads
fast.
currency like this, super quick. So I'm gonna insert some clips and show you some demos of how I use it in the real world. Currently, I have Lookout open to the Explore beta, so I can just move around my space. Dog, backpack,
fresh soap, table with text, fresh soap,
said table, and then fresh soap,
furniture,
furniture,
an owl before.
She's an owl, now she's
No.
two birds. So, as I said, this one's in beta, so it's not perfect yet, but it's still a lot of fun. Now let's check out how it reads currency. So I'm just gonna slide through the bottom, which tells me my options.
Food labels.
Food labels,
Text mode.
text mode, documents,
Or currency.
currency.
Five of
Then I double tap to select currency, and I'll show you how it does.
$5.
Boom, it's that
So
fast.
fast.
Let's see if it can read one of the colors of my lipstick shade names.
Ooh,
That
very
would be
important to you,
helpful.
because I can't even read them.
Entered. Sandy toes. T.
Sandy Toes.
Sandy toes.
So that's the name of this lip gloss, Sandy Toes. Now we know. That makes it so easy. I selected food labels, which is also still in beta. It's telling me that there's no product in view. Give me a second. Okay, so I have a can of Campbell's soup, but I don't know which one.
No product in view. Condensed soup. Cream of potatoes. Campbell's 284 milliliter.
Boom. Now I know that it's cream of potato. If you want to learn more about Android's Lookout, I will have some info linked in the description box below, and I definitely encourage my fellow blindies to check it out because I've been really enjoying it. All right, now let's get into reviewing all of these brands back here.
Sorry, but Lavender's really trying to get in on the action today. She's on the shelf below the products.
Lavender? She's like, what, you were talking about me? All right, we have so much to get through in this video, so I'm warning you now, it will be a long video, but I promise you, you want to stick around till the end because I am leaving the best for last. So before I fully dive into this, I also want to talk about why blind people might enjoy beauty. There's so much more to fashion, to hair, to makeup than just how it looks. It's how it makes you feel and the joy that you get from diving into it, from experiencing it. Also, self-care, hygiene is for everybody. It might shock you, but yeah, we put deodorant on, we brush our teeth, we use skincare and body care, we shower, we use all of the same self-care products that anybody else uses. And that's why it's so important for them to cater to all the people who might be using it. I also want to touch on the difference between accessible design versus universal design. I believe that we should all be working towards universal design. What is universal design? Universal design means it's for everybody, which is really what we should be working towards. Accessible design means it's for one small group of people that might benefit. And it's a lot harder to encourage companies to make things when in their mind, they're making it for one small minority group. But if we flip it around and talk about making things for everybody to benefit from, for everybody to enjoy, it's a lot easier to understand why that's worth spending your money on. And so I'm looking at all of these package designs from the perspective of if it's universal versus if it's accessible. To be clear, before I go any further, I am a massive fan of Braille. I truly believe that all young blind kids should be taught Braille. I think it's very important for literacy, and I also think it's a beautiful part of our community's culture and history. So your girl is not knocking Braille. I think it's amazing, and honestly, my preferred would be to see a combination used of Braille, being accessible design, and symbols and other forms of universal design. So love me Braille. Having Braille on packaging, having Braille is better than having nothing. So that's the language that I'm going to choose to use moving forward. So as we go through these, some of these touch on more universal design. A lot of them touch on more accessible design. So that's the lens I'm looking at this from. And finally, before we fully dive into package review, I want to talk about some stats, some facts, some statistics, because I think it's really important to understand the actual facts and stats behind these things. I did this video a while back on some stats about blindness you might not know, so check that out. I'll link it down below as well. But this video, I want to share some facts that pertain directly to what I'm going to be talking about. 33 million Americans 18 or older are visually impaired or blind. That's a big market, my friends. That's a big group of people. 10% or 3.5 million have an income of $75,000 a year or more. That's money that can be spent on self-care products. 55% of people who are moderately to severely visually impaired are girls or women. I'm gonna have my mom read this one because it's lengthy and wordy. So you take it away, Neve.
Okay. The total disposable incomes post-tax for working age individuals with disabilities is nearly 500 billion. The total discretionary income is 200 billion.
By the way, I'm gonna have all these statistics written in the description box below with where they come from. What's that called? When you give the
Cite, is it? Like citing or referencing?
whatever. I'm going to have where I got these stats because a lot of times in the past when I use my stats, I don't actually tell you guys where I get them, and then I have people being like, I haven't heard that one, I heard this one. Where did you get that one? So I'm actually just gonna have all of these written out in the description box with where I received these statistics from. All right, let's start back here with company number 1. This is Bioderma. Now, I am not reviewing any of the actual products. This is me reviewing the packaging. So, Bioderma has Braille on the packaging. They have Braille on the boxes. They do not have Braille on the product inside. There is no Braille on this product. So once I get this home from the store, the box goes in the recycling box, the tube of product is what goes in my actual drawer. So all of a sudden, it doesn't matter that the box is Brailled because now I still don't know what this product is. Which is why I would then have to pull out an app like Lookout to be able to know what this is, or some other way do my own brailing or labeling system, or organize my drawer in a certain way to have the positioning of all my products memorized, which is how I currently do it. When I went to the store, because some of these I was able to buy in store, some of them I had to order online. When I went into the store to find this, most of their products on the shelf weren't in a box. They were just products on the shelf. None of the products on the shelf had Braille because their packaging itself doesn't have Braille, just their boxes do. So half their products had no Braille labeling, and then the ones that did only have it on the actual cardboard box on the outside. Now, the Braille on the outside is so faint, it's almost illegible. It is so soft. My Braille reading friends will understand what I'm saying. It is so flattened, it's incredibly difficult to read, and that wasn't just on this particular box, it's on all of their boxes. Because the moment Braille gets pushed, so say all of these boxes in shipping were all tightly compact together, Braille is gonna begin to flatten. Literally, when you erase a Braille cell, you do it by simply poking it down and flattening it. So it's very easy to flatten Braille. It also is going to depend on what material you use. This is a quite soft cardboard, which is going to make it even easier to dent and push in. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is because this is an example of accessible design, not universal. Why is this accessible and not universal? Because this is geared towards blind people, which means it's for a small minority, versus being geared towards universal design, which is for everyone. Also, this is for a very small group within the blind community, which is Braille users like myself. Only an estimated 10% of blind people actually read Braille. And so you're playing, by putting Braille on your packaging, to 10% of a minority community. There are better ways that you could create packaging to be accessible for us that widens the range of who's able to actually use it. And that's what I'm going to get to towards the end of this video. So the reason I picked this product up first is because, in my opinion, I'm so sorry to say this, it hurts me to say this, it's done the worst of all of them. And I'm saying that out of love. As I said, I'm very grateful for them doing anything. Because they're spending the money on doing this, I want to make sure they're doing it in a way that actually benefits our community and benefits even more than our community. So, thank you, Bioderma. I would love to chat with you and talk more about things that you could do to improve this design. Thank you for the effort you've put in so far, and I look forward to seeing it get even better in the future. Next brand. I love this brand. L'Occitane. Is it the right way?
Yeah.
I'm probably saying that wrong, so I'm sorry for all my Frenchies. Now, I love this brand because they were doing Braille on packaging before anybody else. Do you know how long L'Occitane has been putting Braille on their packaging? Since 1997. 70% of their packaging to date has Braille on it, and the others, the only reason it doesn't is because they currently haven't found technology to be able to put it on the tube. So again, this is a similar situation. This product that I have here to show you is a similar situation to Bioderma, where the Braille is only on the box. Here it is, it's right here, and this says, honestly, I didn't read the Bioderma one because I literally couldn't, but this one says Shea Foot Cream, and then this box I can read says Shea Hand Cream. Now, again, there's many reasons the Braille could be stronger on this. It could be due to the cardboard that's used. It isn't the strongest Braille, but it is much stronger and easier to read than the Bioderma one. These products, the tubed creams, are a part of the 30% of their products that the Braille isn't on the actual product itself. However, when you go into their store, anything that's in a plastic bottle, like their shampoo, their body wash, has Braille on the actual packaging, so when it's in the shower, when it's in your bathroom, you can actually read the outside of the package. That's pretty amazing. They also have done a ton of funding of vision care around the world. To me, this is not a gimmick, this is a passion, this is a belief. This is true, genuine care for our community, and that's why I've always loved it. When I first discovered them and that they had Braille on their packaging, it was by total accident, and I was so excited. I had just lost the majority of my vision, and I was at an airport in France, and I was feeling around, as I always do when I'm shopping, and I was like, wait a second, this says, like, the product name, like, I could read it, and I have never in my life had that experience where I could go into a store on my own and find a product without asking for assistance. And it was a really, really, really big moment for me, especially as a newly blind person. And at the time, I unfortunately could not afford to purchase L'Occitane. It is definitely a pricey brand. But I knew that as I got older, it was a brand that I wanted to put my money into and support, and it was always a dream brand for me to work with, still is. I think it's good to put our money into brands that show care for accessibility. So even the brands that aren't doing it the best that they could, I think we should still financially back them by purchasing their products to show them that, like, we put our money into brands that care about accessibility. Love L'Occitane, I think it's great. Next brand, this is a new player to the skincare game. This is Human Race. I found out about this through Hiram. Love Hiram. And he was like, oh, and they do this thing for blind people. And I was like, excuse me, pause the video, what now? And I immediately started researching, and yes, they do in fact, Human Race by Pharrell Williams does in fact have Braille on the packaging. Back here I can read, it says, humidifying cream. Is that what it's called? The humidifying cream?
Humidifying cream.
There you go. It also says Human Race. So it says Human Race on the front in Braille and the product name on the back in Braille. I got all 3 products that he offered. So let's talk about this. Actually, I didn't mention this with L'Occitane, but I want to mention it. Both L'Occitane and Human Race, their boxes are textured. It's a rough texture, which almost makes it difficult to read the Braille because the Braille dots can almost blend in with the rough texture of the box because, again, it's on this cardboard, so it is like slightly flattened. It's not as raised as when it's done on traditional Braille paper. But even still, they are much more legible than the Bioderma box type. I was very excited because I was not expecting this. When I pulled these out of the box when I received them, on the packaging, very well brailled, extremely easy to read, it says Human Race. I love that. It's right there, it's plastic, so it is not gonna rub off, it is not gonna flatten, it's very easy to read. That said, all of them simply say Human Race. What would be more beneficial is if Human Race actually brailled the product name on the container. The product name is what I care about every night when I'm doing my skincare routine. What I love about this is it is refillable. So it's much more sustainable. When you purchase these for the first time, you purchase them with the container, and then once you use the product, you can purchase the refill. So that makes it more sustainable, high quality packaging, it feels great. And I'm really excited to see that it is, like a lot of the L'Occitane products, actually brailled on the container itself. Now, ways they could improve. Apparently, they have a visual indicator for people to make it easy to know step 1, step 2, step 3. So for 1, they have just 1 dot, for 2, they have 2 dots, and for step 3, they have 3 dots. It would be unbelievably easy for them to make that element of the packaging tactile. They literally already have Braille dots on the packaging. So if they didn't want to Braille the name of the product, and in fact, I would say as an alternative to that, what would be super beneficial is if they just, on the lid, the top of the lid, so when it's sitting on my vanity or sitting inside of my drawer, I can open it and put my finger on the top and feel 1 raised dot. On the next product, feel 2 raised dots, and on the next product, feel 3 raised dots. That would be really helpful, really beneficial, and frankly, easy for them to do. They've proven they already have the technology to Braille the raised dots on this packaging. So I would just be so excited to see that. And that would be an example of universal design instead of accessible design. Accessible design would be if they Brailled the name or Brailled the number. Universal design would be if they just put a symbol that represents something like 1 dot, 2 dots, and 3 dots, the way they have visually indicated for sighted users. Next brand is Clean Logic. Now, what I'm gonna say, of the brands I've shown you with Braille on their packaging, this is the best. The Braille is the easiest to read, in my opinion. It's the most raised, and it almost feels like it's plasticky, so it wouldn't dent. Like, I don't think I could rub this off. Versus the others, it's like the actual cardboard is Brailled. This feels like it's plastic Braille that's been placed over cardboard. So that's what they did different with their Braille, and it absolutely makes it easier to read. Now they make body care products like facial scrubbers and things like that. For example, this one says facial mitt. What does this one say? Let me read it. Body gloves. Oh, actually, I needed a pair of these. Great. These are really easy to read. They've done a very good job, and a portion of all of their sales gets donated to organizations that help the blind community. So again, it does go beyond just putting Braille on the packaging. It's a real care for our community, which I appreciate. What I will say, of any of the products I've shown so far, not only is the Braille the best, I don't think they need to change what they're doing in terms of making it universal design versus accessible design. This packaging gets thrown out, and I know what these are because I can feel that they're gloves. I know what this is because I can feel that it's a facial mitt. And so it doesn't matter to me that there's nothing on the product that's labeling it. I wouldn't personally need that, and I don't think many people would. So I'm really pleased with what they've done. I think they've done a good job. If you've been around my channel for a while, you've probably seen the video I did, this one right here, where I helped launch Herbal Essence accessible packaging. Now, we have now ended accessible design, and we have entered universal design. This is a great example of universal design. Design that helps everybody, not just blind people, not just people who read Braille. On the back of their shampoo, I immediately knew this was shampoo, and I was holding conditioner because I could feel. At the bottom of this packaging, they have indented lines. All these stripes are shampoo. These circles are conditioner. Now, they've done a really good job. Are they perfect? No, but they did a really good job. Things that I think could help them improve would be to change the location. Ideally, in my opinion, it would be on the top of the lid, so that when these products are sitting on the side of my bath or in my shower, I can simply use one hand and put it down and feel the stripes or the circles. Right now, I have to physically pick the product up with one hand and feel it on the bottom with the other. Not a huge deal, but would it make it easier to not have to do that? Yes. It would make it easier because sometimes in the shower your hands are soapy, your hands are wet, you're picking one thing up, you're dropping it. It just makes it that much easier if you can just one-handed feel it and pick up the right product instead of picking up a product, realizing it's the wrong product, putting it back down, and then picking up the right product. By the way, side note, last night I conditioned my hair twice and then ended by shampooing it once.
Oh, it looks great.
So if I'd had these, I wouldn't have had that problem. But yeah, so that's one way I think they could improve. Now, the idea of universal design is we really want it to be universal, which means every brand does the same thing. So In the shampoo and conditioner space, that would mean seeing across the board using stripes to universally mean shampoo and using circles to universally mean conditioner, so that no matter what brand it is, when I touch it, it all means the same thing. If I'm in a hotel room and I pick up those mini bottles, I know that the stripes are shampoo, the circles are conditioner. An example of this is the bumps on keyboards or phones. There is always a bump on the 5. Universally, across every brand, there's a bump on the 5. On the keyboard, universally, across the board, there is a bump on what letters? J, and what letter is that? A, S, E. What letter is the other one? Why am I blanking? Either way, you get my point. That's an example of how something has universally been adapted. So if universally we can get, shampoo and conditioner companies to use this system that Herbal Essence created, that would be amazing. Okay, so you're probably like, right, Molly, you're saying it's universal versus accessible, but a blind person is benefiting from it. So really, it's still just for this small group of people. No, my friend. Guess who else benefits from this? Anybody who doesn't identify as blind, but is just an average person who wears glasses or contacts that they can't wear in the shower, can use this system. They can't read the bottle anymore once they're in there, but they can still feel the dots. They don't read Braille, so this benefits them. Elderly people. There's so many people who could use this. If you're closing your eyes because you're sensitive to getting water in your eyes, you're sensitive to getting shampoo or conditioner in your eyes, so you like to keep your eyes closed, anybody can benefit from this versus this small group of 10% of the blind community who reads Braille. That's why universal design is the way to go, because not only can far more people benefit from it, but we can make it universal across the board and take one system and have it cross over. Transcend, if you will. Is that the right word? I think so, maybe. Okay, we have made it to the end, the final brand that I'm going to talk about. I can't say enough good things about this company. This is an indie brand. Yes, an indie brand. All of these other brands are big companies with large budgets. If an indie brand can do it right, every brand can do it right. If an indie brand can find the budget, a multi-million-dollar brand can find the budget. Victoria started Victorialand Beauty and was inspired to make the packaging universally accessible because of her son, her youngest child, Cyrus, who was born blind. And I just want to say I jumped on a call with Victoria because I wanted to connect with her to learn more about what she's doing. I was so impressed. She reminded me of my mom. From what I've heard about her and her husband and everything they do for their son, they remind me of my parents, and I'm incredibly proud of her. Cyrus is incredibly lucky to have her, and frankly, the blind community is incredibly lucky to have her. She is working so hard to not only make her own brand. Are you tap dancing?
He's having a little rest there, a little change.
She is working so hard to not only make her brand universally accessible, but to help every brand more easily design accessible packaging. She has created the Cyrus system, named after her son, which is a collection of different tactile shapes and symbols that represent different beauty care products. They currently have, I believe, 11 different symbols. They have 3 products currently on the market, and they are launching more. But they've created 11 symbols so far that span across the self-care space to identify different product types. Through the Cyrus Institute, they are licensing these symbols to other companies. So other companies, like any of these and any brand you find at your CVS or your Shoppers or your Rite Aid or your Walgreens or Sephora, wherever. Did I say Sephora already? Whatever. Any product, any of those brands can go to Victorialand, can go to the Cyrus Institute and license these symbols. That's universal, right? When we can get all of these brands to use the exact same symbols, so we always know exactly what the products are, that's amazing. Also, again, these are symbols. It's not Braille. It's not targeted at this one small portion of a community. It's targeted at anybody who could or would find this useful. Now, some things to note. On all of their products, they have a tactile QR code, which means as a blind person, I can pick up this box and I can feel around and easily find where this QR code is, scan it on my phone, and using my assistive technology, I can read the product name and what's in it. That's awesome. We love that. And then when you open the product, every single product on its lid has a raised plastic symbol. So this one is a triangle, which in her system represents lip or eye cream. This is universal for both. Love that.
And beautiful packaging.
Beautiful packaging, such beautiful packaging, and they're consistently working on improving to make it even better and more user-friendly for people of all abilities, not just the low vision community. Now on the top of this one, I can feel a crescent moon, which to me says night cream, right?
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that's what this is. Like, I would feel that. And
can I see that? This one is Skin Loving Sleep Mask.
Boom.
CBD infused skin perfector. Even better.
There you go, night cream. And I didn't read the note to know that that was night cream. Sorry, I think I said they have 3 products on the market. They have 4. This one is a squiggly line, which is a face moisturizer. And then they also have a oil product. And that oil product, the face oil, is symbolized with a water droplet. The only critique, like the only piece of feedback I could give to Victorialand Beauty is that if you could see on the top of each box, they have the symbol also in a tactile format. It is too small for me to feel.
Actually, that's upside down. It's the other way around.
No, it's right there. I can't feel it enough. It's too small. It needs to be significantly larger. It doesn't necessarily need to be raised any more than it is, but it needs to be larger for me to be able to distinguish what it is. I personally, maybe it's just me, I personally find it too small to be able to figure out what shape that symbol is. Raising it more and keeping it the same size might help, or just keeping it the same amount of embossed, but keep making it larger. But straight up, that's my only piece of feedback. The thing that I love is what I had wished Herbal Essence had done, which is putting it on the top of the lid. So when this is in my drawer, I pull the drawer out and I feel on top, boom, there it is. So I'm not like rooting around to pick and find where it is on the bottle. It's right there, it's obvious, it's bang on the top. So I think she's done an incredible job. The only other piece of feedback I can give to Herbal Essence is that depending on the plastic of the bottle that they've used, some of them are more legible than others. I think with the circles in particular, they could do a better job. Less circles, but more defined. Less circles, but more spread out. So I think just tweaking the system slightly would make it easier. But again, this is more than any other large, well-priced shampoo or conditioner company has ever done. So that right there is worth supporting, and that right there I am grateful for. So that's all the brands I have for you today. Before I close out this video, I also want to mention that Degree Deodorant did announce that they are coming out with accessible packaging for not only the blind, but lots of other features to help lots of other people with different forms of disabilities. I will link an article about it below. It is not seemingly on the market quite yet. Or at least I could not get my hands on it. So I will link information about that below, and maybe over on my TikTok, I might, once I can get my hands on the product, do a review and share my opinions on it. So go follow me on TikTok to see that when it comes out. Thank you to all these companies again for doing your part and trying to make the world a more inclusive and accessible space for all of us to live in and be as independent as we can be. Thank you again to Android for sponsoring this video and consistently coming out with technology to improve the lives of those of us who are blind and visually impaired. I definitely encourage you to check out, look out, even if you're sighted, just because it's fun. It is. It's really fun to use.
It's so much fun. It's so much fun.
So links below for all of these brands, all of the articles, all of the stats, so many links to play with in the description box below. If you want more Molly, you can click here to see me play with pottery. And you can click over here to check out me using my cane all day. I don't know, it's a cane vlog. Check it out. See you next time. Bye.